Water meter. One on the edge. Thank you very much.
Is it good? Good. Fishing here. Look at it. No.
We have that.
Young man.
The thing is, if they need to do it, they do it.
It's y'all. Huh? It's y'all. Yeah, it's y'all. Those, my experiences. But you know, I don't know. These people we know from church. So that helps. Yes. They just don't want he's doing good work in cars. If you're busy, I mean, we probably need another. Well, yes. Yeah. Eventually, you know, but it would be good to find somebody. Then God change it to him. Exactly. Eats him into it. Or to draw from the business. Yeah. That'd be great. That's I like that. Because I mean, it's a turnkey. You know, he might not afford the business. No, no. Cut off from it and then take over. Exactly. And that would be probably 2 years. You wouldn't be ready for it now. Just do it. Of course, it's different directions now. With your sword, really, he wanted me to take control. It wasn't what I wanted to think about. I was 18. Right next to high school. And it was hard. Oh, yeah. Huge, massive. He worked on most construction. Oh, yeah. Mechanic and Anton. I ended up taking over probably 8 or 9 months after I was there. I took over the 24-hour road service truck. Oh, wow. And I was gone 24/7. Oh, sure. And so it's doable. If the guy has the work ethics, and my father brought me up. So he wanted me to take things over. And he had somebody else. I worked with my brother. I was kind of from rebuilding, welding, rebuilding. You know, good deal. Everybody's got a story. Yeah. I was raised working. I started. Yeah. I think it probably 8 to 10 going to work with my mom.
Yeah.
You know, sweeping the warehouse, stacking pallets, and working with the working in the farm work, you know, out farm, you know, we work every day.
Yes.
And then when I was old enough to carry my own, they paid the time to
Exactly. Exactly.
treat work.
Yeah.
I said I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed getting the money.
Right. Exactly.
That encouraged me to work.
That's right. That's right. It is the best way to do it. That's what we did to our boys. As soon as they were old enough to go with you, they were gone and off to get their wrenches.
I was glad today about I was telling you, you know, it's not always about the money, but the hard work and the money comes.
And it teaches your children how to work. Yeah.
Both mine, they're back two boys that have been at Bridgestone since high school. They've been there 20-something. And I don't even think they read first.
No, yeah.
Unless they got
I
a paper.
understand.
They work all the time. And,
Absolutely.
they both have their house. They both have a house. They did it in 19
Goodness.
Yeah, so
That's wonderful.
they get good work. That's no problem.
Wonderful. We're blessed.
For sure. They didn't follow my footsteps. I didn't get by my dad.
No, that's, and you know, I never wanted to force. I mean, never. They would have shown, you know, good interest in it, you know. I encourage you guys to do what you want, you know.
But when it plays with money, there's everything. It plays with money. I try to be honest. It's not
Everything you mean.
be happy. Do what you want.
Some things don't change. No.
It's like problems with it.
That's exactly. Most problems.
Yes. Sure, I know that we're right.
Yeah.
Right. You said you were 60. I'm 60. I'm 63 years.
Okay.
I don't know what you would have.
It's like going to church and arriving late. It's that. Is it you? You're the reason.
I love you so much. I watch a lot of your comments.
Yeah. 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 You got remember new voters in my history. But no,
Look up.
I would say it's those done.
The mayor was always going because like everybody else. And I have to say,
so long.
I have 2 messages. They brought them all. Yeah.
Before he
Yeah.
so that's, yes. So that
And
proves
then.
I had to talk to two California last night, business associates that deal with my business in California last
oh,
night.
yeah, yes.
I want to pull my house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Although I got it.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
I know.
Just business. It's crazy. Talking to these guys. And their true colors come up. It's like, guys, what do you think?
Session, the board will not engage in discussion at this time. Each speaker will be afforded 2 to 3 minutes to share their comments, which will be entered into the
It
record.
doesn't make any sense. That's the way they talk, the way they think.
Questions or issues raised may
It's
be
no
referred to
conversation.
staff for follow-up meetings at a future date and time.
No.
To ensure fairness and orderly meeting, we will now begin public comment. If you would like to address the board, please step to the podium and state your name for the record. And sign.
Hey, good evening, y'all. I had several comments here, and I'm gonna save them because my time on that side of the room, I learned a few things, and that is that a lot of the times the board members aren't educated on exactly what's going on and what behind the why. They're just understanding the why behind the what. And in reading this notice right here. It's going to be assessed on impervious surface. So the obvious offset to that is pervious surface. And at a time when housing affordability is at a crisis level, I mean, good grief, Congress is getting ready to address it. We're setting us up to increase housing prices yet again. And this board hasn't done anything to offset that. We haven't reduced the minimum size of R1. We haven't done anything to address that. So I would like to tell you guys that it's going to cost folks at least 50% more for driveways, walkways, and things of that nature, or they're going to be taxed. And that's if that impervious surface, if that's truly how it reads when the ordinance comes out, the offset to that is pervious, and that is a type of hard surface known as pervious concrete. One of the things that people may not understand about that is it doesn't do anything with the outflow. All it does is direct it underground. You still have the exact same. Surface area. You still have the exact same drainage area. All you do is increase the complexity for builders in the area and the cost for owners. I mean, 53% of the people in this town rent. So let's think about it. 53% of the people that are capable of voting here don't even own a house. And so what we're going to do is we're going to penalize them even more and raise the bar more for that. Also, I mean, it's not meant to disparage anybody, but it's a fact that most of the building trades now don't know that hot's on the left and cold's on the right. And so the level of complexity for these pervious surfaces and the subsurface drainage that it takes is astronomical. And it becomes a high skilled occupation. And then also the regulation behind it and the approval of the slopes. And all this stuff is just adds another level of complexity that doesn't need to be there and another level of expense, in my opinion. So I have a couple statements to make. You know, I don't know that the city's running a surplus right now. I don't know. I don't check the books. I don't think we are as far as revenue collection and expenses. So to me, it's akin to hauling watermelons, losing a dime of watermelon, buying more trucks to haul more watermelons. If we're going to add another department in this city and another level of bureaucracy in this city and another burden to the homeowners and the taxpayers that they don't have to have, because it does nothing. It doesn't minimize, mitigate, or even diminish the surface runoff. It doesn't at all. It still puts it in the drainage right. It does not do, it just doesn't miraculously disappear. It simply goes underneath it and is directed into the outfall in another location or in another manner That's it. So, anyway, like I said, I was gonna stop. I would have a bunch of crap that I wanted to say. I just wanted you guys to know, because I know when I was sitting in that chair, there were a lot of things that came in front of this board that I didn't get any education on. None. Not at all. And I had to go about my own way and figure out what it was, or I was gonna be voting on something that I didn't understand. And I want you guys to know, 53% of the people in this town live in a rented or leased structure. Costs are astronomical. The complexity to comply with this, to abate this tax would be impervious. It's going to make the complexity of building homes and doing these services and subsurface drainage disposal systems astronomically expensive. And it's going to add to the codes enforcement in the area, which somebody's got to pay for that. You know, and that would be the taxpayers who know about it. And I just wanted y'all to know. Thank you.
My name is Tony Lawrence. I live at 16 North Steeple Chase here in McMinnville. And after 10 months ago, I retired. Now I'm on fixed income. And having done that, I've learned you have to live with the income that you have. And that's what I would recommend the city learn to do, is live with the income you have. My property taxes went up 10% this year due to the reappraisal. And that was an addition that I wasn't expecting. But that's something that I think should be thought about. What I read, this is going to add to our water bill. Our water bill now is close to $100. Sometimes it's actually more than my electric bill. And there's not anything you can do because I can hear minimum just two in my household. I see no reason to have another whole department. Already mentioned, adding another whole level of bureaucracy. My suggestion is that you learn, like I've had to do, the difference between essentials and between matters of things you want to do. Do what the city needs to do first, and then when you've got any money left, then use that. Consider those of us who are actually paying the tax and paying the bills, and don't do anything that will cause us more expense. The city's here to serve us. Please do that. Just
Hey guys, I'm Cody Walker. I'm with Warren First Northern, and there's a couple of questions and concerns people drawn to me. So I'll just go through them and just consider these questions to think about. One was, how will this proposal stormwater utility fee impact Warren County residents who receive city water service but live outside the city limits? Two was, will property owners have an appeal process if they believe their impervious surface assessment is incorrect or the runoff does not impact city systems? The third one was, is this fee expected to increase over time? And if so, what safeguards are in place to prevent excessive increases without public approval? Number four was, once implemented, what oversight or review process will exist to ensure the fee is fair, effective, and necessary? The other one was, what type of buildings will be exempt? And lastly, the other one that was asked, will any of the aldermen who own multiple affected properties disclose how this fee impacts them personally? And has any consideration been given to potential conflicts of interest?
Thank you.
Casey Herwood. I know the city has to comply with the TDEC municipal permit. The city's had to do that for close to 10 years, I think now. And I know they do change, but my question would be, what changes specifically have occurred to require the city to start requiring the fee? And then also, one other thing to consider is when you have commercial properties, multiple tenants, the property owner may not have a water bill. So you've got shared parking space, shared impervious cover. How do those charges get divvied up between tenants? two things I have to consider. I'm Joe Schoolfield, and actually have a place off of Spring Street, just up around the corner. If you're familiar with Parks and Rec, I would have brought Little Sebastian and probably gotten all the attention I needed. If you're not familiar with the show, you're confused right now. But I did want to say thank you for opening up for us to be able to talk tonight. I know I may not sound like some of the other folks before or after. I'm not necessarily opposed to the public notice and the information that's there. I think that there are a lot of things that need to be considered. I know that stormwater maintenance, flood mitigation, I know the city council just in 2025 had several discussions around flooding and what to do about that. Water quality, MS4 management is a real issue. And there's regulatory compliance. It doesn't happen. And it doesn't come from inside of McMinnville. We know the state and we know that nationally there's codes that have to be done. Processes. Flood mitigation can be handled through multiple avenues. FEMA has programs, state has programs. There's other federal options, and it would be nice to understand how those could be leveraged for this opportunity here. Also, with developments coming in and changing fundamentally how we deal with stormwater, not taking open land that is soil and other things and creating developments and such, that changes fundamentally how our city is operating. And it would be nice to understand how we can leverage the development and actually putting more restrictions and or controls in place so that developers can be part of the solution also. I'm not necessarily concerned whether it's necessary. I'm not the scientist that's out there. I don't have the measurements, but I do have questions that I think we can consider. Not looking for answers in this, obviously this forum, but I'd love for them to be considered. Number one, I think understanding and quantifying the problem that we're trying to solve. I think that's probably been asked a couple of times already. Is there some sort of backlog on maintenance? Is there system assets or condition of assets or dollars that we can look at that would say, this is why we have to make these specific changes? This is why we have to address going into a fund type of environment. Second, it would be excellent to be able to see an analysis, something that shows this is what we think we need to do over the next year, and here's the justification behind those things. Obviously, deciding on a rate should have data behind that. There should be some sort of unit that can be applied. That's going to be difficult when you have multi-tenant units like was talked about before me. I don't know if they're using something like an equivalent residential unit that I know a lot of municipalities do use. Number three, one big concern would be it's very difficult to think of yet another source of income coming into the city without understanding how that's going to be managed. Where and what is the accountability going to look like? I don't want more bureaucracy anywhere in my life. And I especially don't want it in a city that, for my short experience here, I've seen has done some very fiscally responsible things. And so with the benefit of the doubt, I do ask the question, how can we see how the actual fees will go into how the city's managing the budget? Next, did talk about pervious and impervious surface calculations. How would that happen? What are some of the methods that the homeowners and the commercial property owners understand that? Second to that is there, someone already mentioned this, is there an appeal process to be able to work with the city and say, for example, I know roofing contractors and other property survey companies use satellite imagery. That's not always right. I just did a new roof on a home in McMinnville. They were wrong by almost 500 squares because they used satellite imagery that had a wrong shot. So I know that an appeal process will be important depending upon the tools used. Also, and I think this is really important, we already had a gentleman come up, I think there has to be some sort of allowances for fixed income and hardships. Something that can provide either a tiered approach, grandfathered approach, or a lock-in. Something, maybe even mitigation opportunities there. Next, kind of in line with some of the budget items I've read before, will there be an annual independent audit so that there's public availability on a new fund, something new to the city? There's not an overwhelming amount of support for someone to have more tax dollars for something that runs off of their property and they never see it.
But if they can understand a little bit more where it applies and how it applies, maybe there's an additional support to be given. Finally, final question here. I really would like to understand how the city is willing to commit to meaningful credits, something around accountability on growth. Just because the city grows, that the fee shouldn't grow. There should be other things put into place for growth that's happening today, so that mitigation is a part of the development process, not an afterthought. And then finally, I would challenge the city also to consider some sort of performance review 2 to 3 years down the road. If these things begin to happen, what does it look like? Was this successful? Can we reduce the fee? Can we add new changes and potentially credits? And to get a little bit more detail around the credit, I know that there are several municipalities, even in the state of Tennessee, that offer credit programs around mitigations that businesses and homeowners put in place. Whether it's stormwater system collection on their property, a rain pond that collects things and keeps it from going into that. French drain systems that actually dissipate the water on their. So there's other opportunities there, even cisterns that could be filled and such. So I personally want to say that I truly believe that we could do well at this as a city, but I think transparency, measurement, data is going to be important for people to understand why this has value. And I think if we have a clearly defined scope, a plan that's published, measurement, and guardrails. Guardrails because all of you folks that are sitting here now may not be here in 5 years. So I'm not necessarily trusting that everybody gets a head nod. This is for the city, for my city and my children's city. And so the guardrails are going to be very important. And finally, a funding approach that creates balance so that the current residents, new developments, and any outside resources we could go for feed into making McMinnville even greater. So I'm not saying abandon it all. Don't do it. I don't like it. I am saying we need public confidence. And I think before we do anything permanent, that would probably be the most important. Thank you.
Jeremy Hamilton. I live on 127 Lagoon, and I also live in a detail shop on 806 South Chancery Street. I would be affected by this if this does pass on both accounts. And this would affect my water at both locations. One location on Lagoon, the city has still yet to finish the water issue that I have there along with other people. Having an additional tax on my water bill for something that's still not resolved, I very much struggle with that. Also, the property on 806 South Chancery Street is an impervious surface. What does that mean for my water bill? It's all concrete. That is going to affect my bill tremendously. I'm a small business. It's going to cut my profits even more. We just dropped almost $1 million in 10 minutes on 2 garbage trucks. I do not think this is the responsibility of the citizens to pay for this. I think we need to look at budget cuts. I think we need to look at things within the city budget to make this happen without making the taxpayers pay this fee. Thank you.
Charles Dodson, 99 Maryview Court, and I'm also District 2 County Commissioner. I sit on the Econ and Ag Committee for the Warren County Commission. We deal with the IDB board. And it is my opinion, as I've heard Mr. Harvey talk about the cost that's going to affect, and hear this gentleman here with his business, it's going to affect them. We're trying to get businesses in here. We're trying to bring them in. We're trying to get people in Marshall. We're trying to get them in McMinnville. We're doing all we can. And all this is going to do is just hinder that process. Now, I understand floodwaters have got to be taken care of. But there ought to be another solution. And I Instead of taxing the people again, I think it's the wrong thing to do. Back up, we'll take another look at it, try again. Because there again, we're trying to better this community. County commissioners that are here tonight. Better this community, you're trying to better this community. Let's help each other out. If you start taxing everybody, then that falls on us. We're not gonna have a county very long.
I'm Leah Edwards. I'm a local realtor, and I just wanted to say, as a local realtor, I see firsthand how even small recurring fees affect affordability. Buyers already factor in taxes, insurance, and utilities when deciding whether they can purchase a home. Adding another mandatory fee, especially one that changes over time, directly impacts housing affordability, resale value, marketability of properties in that neighborhood. From a real estate standpoint, utility fees tied to impervious surfaces create uncertainty for buyers and sellers. When costs are not predictable or clearly understood, it becomes harder to market homes and harder for buyers to qualify and commit. I regularly work with retirees and fixed income homeowners. New monthly fees may seem small in isolation, but they add up quickly and can become a deciding factor in whether someone can stay in their home or they successfully sell it. As someone who deals with daily disclosures and consumer transparency, I believe residents should be provided with clear, itemized information on how this fee will be calculated, billed, appealed, or increased over time before it is adopted. Thank you.
Scott Kelly, I live on 204 Van Buren Street. And I'm a commissioner in District 5. And the best way for the city or the county to raise tax revenue to mitigate the issues that we have to deal with is more taxpayers, not more higher taxes.
Seven minutes left. Just a comment before the full board meeting starts.
My name is Barry Ferguson. I reside in I'm a retired legal research analyst and musician. And one of my questions here would be is, I know we've had several surveys before asking issues to be numerically ordered. And this has always been one that's been on there. I moved back to my 2017 after being gone for about 50 years. And this has been an issue that's been noticeable as you drive through the town ever since then. And my guess is it probably existed before I ever moved back here, if I brought it back to start. But with that being said, and it being on the questionnaires before, who has been responsible for taking care of these issues up until this brainchild of that? I mean, there had to be a department within the city that was responsible for this particular issue. Who are they? And why do we feel the need all of a sudden to bifurcate that department, create another department, have more expenses? And how long would that be before that department actually effectively becomes up and running. You're gonna have to interview, probably hire somebody from out of town, do that interviewing process if we go along the way we've done before. You're gonna have to do that, then you're gonna have to hire sub personnel to go with that. You're gonna have to buy equipment to go along with that. All the meanwhile, we're paying taxes, we're still not seeing any resolution, the water running across the street and everything. So how long would it be before this process produces fruit? Up until I hear more and cost and how it can be identified and what areas are going to be directed in what order they're going to take place in, I don't have enough information to give you. I think you need to look within, create some more money, got some more money. I don't know. Not delved into that much, possibility. But based upon what I've heard and seen up until this point, I can't. I don't know anybody in town. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Further comments? If there are none, we'll consider this public hearing closed. Thank you.
We haven't-